Hello, runners. Happy Global Running Day. I'm Coach Roberto, and today I'm joined by my colleague and co-host, Ben Delaney. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Roberto. It's a beautiful day here in New York City. Great day to get out there and get that mile in. It's a gorgeous day. How are things with you today?
Yeah, doing well. Obviously, I was just in New York, and the week itself was really great. And then by Friday, Saturday, and the weekend was really, really cold and rainy. So, not sure about where you are, wherever you're watching, but fortunately, New York has bounced back as it always does. And of course, Global Running Day, the weather's great. So, we have a great show for you today. We're going to have a few different segments. Obviously, talk about training, send us any of your injury-related questions, training questions, things like that. But we do obviously want to kick off celebrating Global Running Day. So let us know where you're watching from. We always love to hear shout outs. Sometimes we get them from right across the street when we're at the run center, all the way to literally across the world. So let us know where you're watching from, and we'll just shout you out. And also, of course, questions. We always love interacting with you, our runners, especially on Global Running Day. Let us know, are you running? Where are you running from? And how far are you running? Ben, I think you've already run this morning, probably 10 times. Have you?
Not quite 10 times, but yes, I was already out this morning. It was down in Central Park, and it was the park is abuzz with so much activity these days. It is definitely spring. It is the early part of June. There is so much happening not only this summer and the spring this summer, but as we know, the fall season is typically marathon season. And boy, is this marathon season going to be crazy. There's so many marathons that peg back between, seems like September 1st and sometime in mid-December. If you want to find a marathon, you can find one, and you can definitely train for one this year. But it's definitely alive and kicking here in the city.
Yeah, definitely. I know last week at group training, a bunch of runners were talking amongst themselves about, are you going to run London? Are you going to run Chicago? Are you going to, and we were talking about as far as the world marathon majors to see who is going to be daring enough or have the ability to try to run, all six world marathon majors, obviously culminating with the TCS New York City Marathon on November 7th. We're super excited, but long before that, we have to start the training. So for our first segment, marathon training. So Ben, can you tell us a bit about what's going on in terms of marathon training from New York road runners and in general?
Definitely. I mean, we have a lot of options this year. The one that we're probably most excited about is our new virtual offering, the NYRR Coaching Lab by Run Coach. It's launching up here June 8th. Very excited to get this information out there. A lot of runners asking about, hey, I'm ready to train. How can I train? I'm training from wherever I am in the world, whether it be from Spain or Japan or Australia, all the way here to New York, to California and Canada. The NYRR Coaching Lab by Run Coach is going to be your best bet to get you in there. It offers you a personalized training plan along with access to the NYRR coaches for your training tips, and a dedicated, this time around, this is a great piece we're having this time, is that every runner will have a dedicated coach for one-to-one contact and personalized coaching. That means anytime during your training, if you have a question about one of your runs, your overall training, any questions you may have, you will be able to connect with a coach to get information back. Another cool feature that we have as part of the NYRR Coaching Lab by Run Coach is we have information for before, during, and after your training runs. I mean, we have our runners always asking us, okay, so how am I supposed to prep for this run, or what am I supposed to do after this run? We have been able to provide you some information as well as video clips to help you along your training journey, because it's obviously important. We want to make sure to get you to the start line of whatever marathon you're preparing for, especially the TCS New York City Marathon, healthy and ready to run the race that you've trained for.
Wow, that's just, I already know about this stuff, and just hearing you talk about it, Ben, either you're a natural salesman or I don't know, but it gets me extra excited. Also, again, just, not to make it too New York City centric, but just there's nothing like summertime in New York City, running in Central Park, because there's loads of people out there running for general fitness, for weekly races, and of course for all the marathons coming up in autumn. So, check out Run Coach. It'll be coming out soon. But then also, additionally to that, we have something called group training, which we actually just launched the current session. We're in week 2 of it. It's an 8-week session. It's going really well. Ben's out there at basically all the parks, so if you're in New York, stop by and say hi. But we will have the marathon one more or less starting on July 20th. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Ben?
Yeah, our in-person training, and man, we are in-person training. Who did not miss running with people? It was so hard in 2020. We felt so disconnected, and we were able to bring back our group training offering early here in 2021. I just hear from our runners all the time how great it is to be back in our parks, to be back with the coaches, our runners. I mean, our coaching staff is just amazing. They're doing a great job connecting with runners, meeting you where you are. As many runners right now are coming back from a prolonged time away or a layoff for different reasons. 2020 was hard. This is a new year, but we will help you with wherever you are with our in-person training. Group training right now, we have it in current parks. We have it in Central Park on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Our Tuesdays have both AM and PM. Our Wednesday is an AM at 9:30. We are back in Astoria Park out there in Queens, Tuesday nights at 6:30. All of our runners were asking when Astoria was coming back, and we were so stoked to be able to get that one back on tap. And then Prospect Park, Brooklyn, we have All the Love for You on Tuesday evenings and mornings, and we're looking to bring back in part of our marathon time frame in July. We will be bringing back Prospect Park on Thursdays. So runners out there looking to do both your speed and your tempo work, we will see you there Tuesdays and Thursdays, AM and PM. And then more importantly, everybody loves to have some fun and someone to run with when you're long runs, because obviously when you're out there for 10, 12, 14 miles, whatever the time frame you have, a group of people to run with is always fun. And our weekend long run will be back as well for our July session. So keep an eye out for those offerings to come online. Registration should be opening up here either later this month or early in July, but there'll be announcements for that. So if you've got marathon training on the mind, as many of us do, and maybe you're here local to the New York City area, love to see you out there in our parks with group training. Our coaches will help you along the way, guide you to whatever you need to do. Again, the key is we want to get you healthy and ready to the start line. Roberto, are you getting ready for the TCS New York City Marathon this year, or are you going to be just broadcasting again this year, hanging out at the finish line?
I love how you said broadcasting again, because honestly, 2019, I was fortunate enough to run the race, record for one of our special interest runners that we had, and I was also fortunate enough to, with our colleague Anika Mar, work the broadcast. So I don't know yet. Nobody's going to get an exclusive right now. My goal is to run this year. I always love assisting runners, enjoying the course firsthand, and then being use of however else I can. So stay tuned. But I will say I have started to train a little bit. I'm ramping up my training just in case I do have the privilege to run the 50th TCS New York City Marathon. But we'll find out maybe in the coming weeks, and I'm sure it'll be an exclusive, a little ticker at the bottom. But before we continue, I already see some questions coming in and some shout outs. So I'll just jump in right away. Actually, we have a quick question. It says, hi, this is from Alvarado. Hi, I just finished my global running day, but is there any way you guys could fix this Strava app? We always have problems with this app. Can you create a new app that does not cause too many problems? So what I would say to that, first and foremost, congratulations. Thanks for taking part, and congratulations on running the race. And as far as what maybe issue you might have with the Strava app or your run in general, I would say email help@nyrr.org. And then if there's any issues with virtual racing, you could always join our virtual racing Facebook page. It's a really great active community. We have admins in there that are always just answering questions, interacting with the runners. So I would say, maybe do both of those and see which one works best for you or works for you quickest. Another question is from Michael Schwartz. Good morning. I'm signed up for the NYC Full. Any idea when NYR might announce some larger fall races? I'm hoping to use the Staten Island half as a training run. Ben, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been asking these questions. Obviously, everyone loves to get into a few races before they set up to the line in Staten Island come November 7th for the TCS New York City Marathon. I know a lot of races are coming back. I think a lot of them are still kind of in the developmental stage. Our events team is working incredibly hard to get as many races back for our runners. So keep an eye out on the page as more races come online. I think we have everything through the end of July is currently up, but keep an eye out for those August, September, and October races to be opening for registration soon. I don't have an exact date yet, but there are some races coming down the pipeline. So just keep an eye out at nyrr.org or on the Facebook page or Instagram to check that out, because more races are coming, and we all want to get out there and train and be ready come November 7th.
Great. And then this next question, it seems like right up your alley, Ben. It's from Steve. It says, "Hi all, I love GT. Can I train with Coaching Lab and group training for the marathon at the same time?"
Always, always, always. You can do both. The best of both worlds is what we always call that. You want runners to be able to achieve. If you're here in the local area and you want to use both our coaching lab, with Run Coach and our GT, absolutely. You typically can ask the coach, "Hey, I'm doing this. I'm doing the app as well. I'm training with the coaching lab through Run Coach, and I'm here at group training. What do you recommend?" Our coach will be able to guide you through that to ensure that you're not overdoing it. I think sometimes runners see a training plan in one area and then they show up for group training for another. You want to make sure that you're not overdoing any of your speed work, any of your long runs, a proper balance. Because again, we always want to get you there to the start line healthy and ready to run. You're going to be training very hard. It is getting warmer right now, so being safe out there is always a key. Making sure that you protect yourself throughout these next few months. What are some of the tips that we can provide, Roberto, to our runners as they get warm about how to stay safe and maybe some different ideas on clothes to wear?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, hydration is always key, but hydration, like, what does that mean? Does that mean I need to just drink a lot before the run and then I'm good for the rest of the run? So I would say a lot of times when we think hydration, we just think drinking water, which water in and of itself is great. But when we sweat, typically, especially in these warmer months with more heat and humidity rising, and I would say definitely check the wet bulb as well, is you're losing nutrients. So the best way to replace that is with a drink that is maybe high in electrolytes. So that's typically like a sports drink. Make sure it's not too sugary. It might not sit well in your stomach. But when it comes to hydration, I would say in these early summer months, definitely go out and run either with a handheld bottle or maybe plan your running route around a place where there's maybe water fountains. That way you don't have to go too long without drinking. But that's, of course, the difference between I'm doing maybe a 30-minute easy run versus I have a long run this week. And plan your courses accordingly and make sure that you either have water or sports drinks with you at all times, or there's some access to water or sports drink along your course. And then the other aspect of that is running clothing. Ben, tell us a little bit about, like, running clothing. You're not hopefully out there running in your college sweatshirt that's really heavy and doesn't wick away the moisture. But like, what sort of articles of clothing should we want to run in? As I get you laughing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know, it's so true. I mean, again, everybody has an individual, but it's always good to wear, lightweight, wicking style clothing, whether it be tank tops or t-shirts. Obviously, I think a lot of us have now probably turned over our running wardrobes from our winter garb. We're putting away the beanies, the gloves, the jackets, the tights. Now we're back to shorts, tees, and tanks. You want to make sure you've got good wicking clothes, lightweight. Even light colors will help depending on where you're running. I was down in Florida a little while ago with a buddy of mine who was running a race, and we were down there, early May, and it was already much warmer than I was used to up here in New York. So again, wherever you are, you look at what you want, but again, lightweight. You want to make sure it's moisture wicking because you want to get the sweat off. You're going to be sweating a lot, especially as Roberto talked about, as you're taking in your hydration. You want to keep that going. Good socks. Always key. I think we always talk about having good socks that wick away. The days of wearing the old white tube socks, probably not the best call. You want to find a nice moisture wicking sock to keep your feet dry, because blisters can form, and a blister will stop a run just about quicker than anything else. It's very uncomfortable out there, but always look to have lightweight, moisture wicking clothes. Have a few pairs of shorts and definitely more shirts because you'll be going through them a bit faster. I think this time of year I do more laundry for my running clothes than my regular clothes, because just going through stuff is so much faster these days. But one of the great benefits is, at least up here, our days are much longer. So I can get in those more miles. Sometimes the sun is up here as early as 5:30 in the morning, doesn't go down until after 8 o'clock at night. Maybe even some areas of the world, the sun's even up longer. So get in those miles when you can. Try to run in the cooler part of the days to make keep that sweating down if it works out well. But always take care of yourself and make sure you get the right clothing and find what time of the day works best for you. Now, we have a lot of shout outs today, Roberto. Everyone's chiming in here for our coaches chat. This is fantastic.
Yeah, you want to read a few of them out?
I would love to. I think we have a few here. We have, if I hope I get this name correct, is it Yoon Yi Yap from New York? Hello, thank you so much. I love our local runners that are tuning in. Cesario from Pueblo, Mexico. Again, international audiences are always out there. Coach Nick Weichel always is coming out there. Oh, he says he's watching from behind Coach Roberto in his blind spot. You know how Nick rolls these days. He's keeps it real like that. And then we've got Earl Simmons doing the Sunrise 10K from Southeast Queens, New York today. Who else we got, Roberto?
Yeah, we have a username SCC1991 FYI Costa Rica. I love it. You know, send us your name or your handle. We're here to celebrate. Also, by the way, Nick is not in my blind spot because I don't have a blind spot. And then we have Susie who says, I run things. Hi, everyone. And then we have Jeffrey. Good afternoon, my runners. Good afternoon, Jeffrey. And lastly, we have Alex. Early morning runs with my crew, all in 2021 NYC. So, and we have Udbav Yo saying hello. So yeah, continue to give us your shout outs. Let us know where you're watching from, whether it's my blind spot, according to Nick, or down in Mexico. You know, we're just really happy to hear from everybody. And one thing I will say before we move on to the next segment, when I was talking about hydration, because I was just talking about this with a runner, figure out what works best for you. You know, I always say go by minutes rather than miles. So when you run the TCS New York City Marathon or any other world marathon majors or marathons in general, you're accustomed to having aid stations every mile or every 2 miles or 5K, you know, whatever it may be. And you know, you can't control, because as we start to get more fatigue, the distance, the time it takes you to cover 5K or a mile, you know, might get longer and longer. So that means that if you're just trying to hydrate every time you get to an aid station, you're going to be depriving yourself of hydration at times that you need. So I always tell runners that we work with, and also on Facebook live chats, that it's better to go by minutes. So, you know, if you say I'm going to drink every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes or 35 minutes, you know, whatever works best for you. And the beauty of it is that you could kind of experiment with that during the summer months, during your training runs, during your long runs specifically. And that way you could implement it on race day, even if the weather is not the exact same as it was while you were training. But that way, 30 minutes is always 30 minutes or 35 or what have you, instead of having to rely on waiting, you know, 1 mile or 3 miles. So that's one of those quote unquote pro tips. But aside from that, like Ben said, I really do love running this time of year. The days are so long. You could run early in the morning, or as I did yesterday after feeding the kids. I went out for a run at almost 7 p.m. and the sun was still high in the sky. So I love it. But yeah, changing gears a little bit, Ben, you kind of touched upon this a little bit with an earlier question, but we do have some in-person events in the pipeline. Can you tell us a little bit about that with the first one on June 6th?
Yeah, June 6th, this Sunday out in Flushing Meadows, Queens, we have our NYRR Flushing Meadows mile. I'm actually going to be out there. I'm looking forward to running a mile. It's actually around the globe out there. It's going to be a flat, fast course. So if you're signed up or registered for that, hopefully I see you out there. It should be a fantastic day. Our events team is getting ready to get out there. They'll be out there the next few days, getting it prepped for us. So it's going to be a fun day. Registration is closed for that. So unfortunately, if you're looking to register for that, for this race is not going to be an option. But if you are looking to get part of the mile series, our next mile series is the NYR Prospect Park Mile. That's going to be run on June 17th or 18th. You can check out the website for that. That one is open for registration right now as part of the mile series. So if you're looking to do a mile race sometime here in the summertime, check out that one for July. I think the race that all of us are really looking forward to is the Mastercard Mini 10K. It's coming back June 12th. My wife is running it. She just gave me a big old shout out across the room here. A lot of friends that are out there. A lot of our group training runners are getting ready for the Mastercard Mini 10K. That is going to be an incredible day on June 12th out there in Central Park. So if that registration is still open, I think I did see it was saying near capacity. So runners, if you're sitting on the fence, not sure, I'd recommend you jump in on that one as fast as you can. And then finally, June, Pride Month, one of the best races that we have on our calendar, June 26th. Front Runners is putting on the Pride Run. Always look forward to that one. It's really one of the best days out there. I did it a few years ago with some friends, and I think we had 10,000 plus finishers that year, and it was an absolute celebration. The feeling of that race is fantastic, especially as that's really kind of like the launch for a lot of people into their marathon training. So get out there for Pride. Roberto, are you looking at any races on the calendar? I know you're not here in New York City right now, but maybe you have anything on the calendar where you are to get prepped for a run, or you just kind of chilling out, enjoying, where you are?
I've really enjoyed doing the virtual races. The last one that I was signed up to do was the recently completed virtual Volvo Cars Brooklyn half marathon. But beyond that, I've just really enjoyed doing the virtual races. It's not something that's relatively new to me, but this year / last year due to the pandemic is something that I've really embraced, and I just like going out there because I know that I'm running it alone wherever I design the course, but then at the end of that, I get on, I log online in our virtual community, and I see like, oh my God, like so-and-so ran it. And sometimes I know that a friend of mine running, we try to run at the same time. So, but as far as in-person races, you know, my big circle on the calendar, if you will, it's probably, you know, November 7th, but obviously, as I mentioned earlier, TBD. But I will say, number one, good luck to your wife. I look forward to seeing how she goes. And number two, I've always loved that race just because I think, you know, I don't have all the data on me, but I think more than any other race, that's the one race where year in, year out, obviously in the past, almost all the participants wear the race shirt. You know, it's a singlet, it's you know, maybe 10K, and it's so cool because you watch the race and wave after wave, runner after runner, just everybody's celebrating, but everybody's kind of in the same uniform, which is again so unique to the event itself, and I just love that. And unfortunately, this year I'm going to be away at a wedding. Otherwise, I was planning on being there to celebrate the race because it is a, you know, great race and always fun to watch. So. I believe we have a few more questions coming in. So as I said, keep sending us your questions. We'll try to get to all of them. And the first question I see is, excuse me, says, it's from Stefan. What do you recommend for training for a marathon? Some programs recommend slow runs, 950 per mile for an hour or more, for example. Some say 3 miles, 6 miles, and one long run each week. For example, I know it's very individual, but what's generally better? So general question, but I think you could, you know, tackle this.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think you kind of touched on, you know, it's an individual. I think when you're running, you're going to have to find out what's best, you know, for you. You know, one of the core principles that we go by is, you know, 3 hard workouts per week. You don't want to do more than that. So when you're looking at like how your week may be structured, you know, maybe you have 1 speed day, you have 1 tempo day, you have 1 long run day. And any other running that you may have within there are going to be easy, you know, runs to kind of recover or log some miles. Another key when you're doing marathon training is that 80 to 90% of your miles should be conversational. They should be easy. They shouldn't always be hard. So really, when you have your hard days, your speed and your tempo day, those should be challenging days. You're working through. That's part of your building your body ready to do the longer distances. And then your long run should be conversational, whether you run by minutes or you run by miles. Both are very effective and very efficient. The one rule of thumb that a lot of us like to keep in mind when you're doing marathon training is your long run. Once you get beyond that 3.5 hour range in terms of time on your feet, you're actually in a spot where there's negative returns. It's going to take your body so long to recover. So when you're looking at whether you're running by minutes or by miles, just make sure that you're increasing whatever you're doing. And when you get to that 3-hour time frame on your feet, whether it's, you know, 15, 18, 20, you know, 21 miles, whatever the case may be, that you're just protecting yourself, you know, making sure you're not there for too long, because then the recovery becomes too much time off your feet to get ready for your next run. And the next week becomes very challenging because your body just doesn't have enough time to repair. Another thing when you look at your training is making sure that you're getting proper fueling during the week before your runs, making sure you're eating well, you're eating, you know, good solid foods, your diet is solid. You know, don't think of it just as the night before a workout you need to be prepping to get ready for. It should be a few days before. I always look at my training runs as like a dress rehearsal for race day. So always kind of plan out what you're going to do. My diet becomes kind of, you know, simple after a while, but it's because I know what I put in my body I'm going to need to get the most out of it when I train. So, you know, those are some really good ideas to, you know, to start off with. Roberto, do you have any other tips that, you know, could help out a runner in terms of their overall training plan, minutes, miles, any of those good ideas?
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, you nailed it. But what I will say, my personal preference with runners that I work with, and even just in general, because you know, sometimes I advise my wife, is I enjoy going minutes over miles, especially when you're first starting out, whether you're coming off of a long layoff or injury or whatnot. Because as I was kind of saying earlier with hydration, when you do minutes always come. So if I say, okay, I'm going to go out for the first week and run maybe 3 times a week, each run about 20 minutes, then it's 20 minutes. And of course, as I get fitter, I might cover more distance over those 20 minutes, but it's 20 minutes, it's time on my feet. I'm working at a, you know, relatively good effort versus saying, okay, I'm going to go out each week, each run 3 miles. And it's like, okay, if I'm not feeling that great or the conditions are tough, I still have to slog through, you know, 3 miles. So for me, I prefer to go minutes over miles. And of course, you could always gradually increase the minutes each week, a little bit by little as you get fitter. And the cool thing is, even if you stick with minutes, which is great. You can still track your miles. You're like, oh, 2 months ago, I was running an hour run and it was taking me, and I was running for an hour and I was covering 6 miles. Now I'm covering 7.5 miles. So it's like, I'm fit, but again, it's the time on your feet. So that would be my advice for those people who have never done that, especially if you're starting your training, maybe try to experiment with that. But yeah, you can't go wrong as long as you follow obviously Ben's advice and you just start gradually listen to your body. It's always key, especially in these warmer months. So yeah, I would say that's the way to go. So another question is from a local man named Steve. I'm looking for new shoes to train for the New York City Marathon. Best shoes to buy. So it's a very specific question, but obviously Ben, everybody has different feet and different sizes, running mechanics. So what can you tell Steve and other runners out there?
Yeah, I think the rule of thumb here, or the rule of the foot in this case, is to find your local running shop, go get fitted for some shoes, and then try out several pairs of shoes. And most running shops have a treadmill, or maybe you can run around the block, but put them on for a little while, check them out, go for a spin around the block. If I have a treadmill, do a little bit of running, see how they feel. It's similar to how when you test drive cars, if you do that kind of stuff, you'll get a pretty good vibe pretty quickly how a shoe will feel on your foot. Another thing about getting fitted for a shoe is that they'll also be able to tell you, do you pronate, do you supinate, what are you flat-footed, do you need some arch support? They'll be able to give you some great advice and say, okay, based off of what we're seeing here, these are some different shoes to try out, different brands, and then we'll find out what works best. It is a personal choice. Sometimes you have a shoe that would work well for one thing, and maybe like a different shoe that will work better for something else. Your long run shoe is this, your speed shoe is this. Typically, as I said before, when I look at my long runs for marathon training, I like to wear the shoe I'm going to use on race day. I may replace that shoe over the course of training, depending on how many miles I get, because obviously, a shoe is going to break down over time, and we'll go into some shoes here, I think, in a little while. But I always like to say, okay, this is the shoe I'm going to wear on race day. I want to make sure I'm using that shoe for my long runs and for part of my training, so that my foot and my body, more importantly, get very used to how this feels, how it's going to work as I go through those miles, because you're going to be logging a few miles over the course of your training. So you want to make sure you have a good shoe that you like, feels good, does what you want. And that way, when you're ready to get out there on race day, you know what's going to work well. I would say go to your local running shops, get fitted for those shoes, try a few out. The first one may not be the perfect one. The glass slipper may be a few shoes away, but keep trying them on. And before you know, you'll have a shoe that works best for you. And away you go.
Excellent. So 2 quick questions before we go into our next segment. Number one is Carrie. She's watching from Florida, and she's wondering which race did you run down there in May? So quick answer, what did you read?
Yeah, a buddy of mine ran, it was a Keys 100. It ran from Key Largo to Key West, and it was very hot and it was very long. It was a very challenging race. He's an ultra runner, was part of his crew. I was out there for part of it, but yeah, crazy day, but it was a fun day to be out there. And heck, we were in the Keys, so it wasn't all bad.
Excellent. And then the other question, which you kind of answered already by talking about, coaching lab by Run Coach, but maybe you could kind of highlight some of those points is, Remy is asking, is the online virtual trainer still available?
Yeah, the online virtual training that we use in past is going to be changed up to this new one that we have, the coaching lab by Run Coach. Very similar to our previous virtual trainer that we had. You'll have a personalized training plan. So again, you'll input your information. The algorithm within that system will say, okay, this is where you are as in your training as a runner, and we'll give you the personalized training plan. The other nice features that we're going to have, like I touched on before, is that everyone is going to have that personalized one-to-one attention from a coach. So when you sign up, when you get your training plan put together, you will be assigned a coach, and that coach will be helping you out during your training. That's one of the key things that we know. Everybody deserves a coach. Everybody should have that ability to connect, talk to, because we all have questions as we train. Being able to have that connection with the coaches that are out there and ready to go is going to be key. And obviously, any of the information we have before, during, and after your training runs is so key, because everyone's asking, okay, what kind of strength should I do? What kind of stretching should I do? What kind of warm-up drill should I have to be doing? All the information will be on there. So some great features that are rolling out with our new NYRR Coaching Lab by Run Coach. As I said, that comes online June 8th. So be on the lookout for that. Sign up. You can use it for either the virtual TCX New York City Marathon or the in-person TCS New York City Marathon, the 50th running. I'm so excited for that this year. Keep an eye out, June 8th. You'll be able to get in there and register. Another nice feature that we have is that you'll be able to get a training plan of any length, whether you sign up on June 8th, June 12th, July 1st, whenever you need to be there, the training plan will be designed and ready to go for your race date, giving you the proper amount of training that you need to get you ready and, again, to the start line healthy on November 7th in Staten Island.
All right, thank you, Ben. Again, every time you talk about the marathon, this and that, I get excited. I'm like, okay, I want to go for a run, especially on such a lovely day. Which is, by the way, brings us to our next segment. As I mentioned at the top of the show, it is a global running day, and a lot of people get excited about it, but sometimes, as the nature of any holiday, we celebrate it, but we don't even understand or maybe learn about the origins of it. So, Ben, if you could just give us a quick rundown of Global Running Day, its history from when it started to obviously today.
Yeah, I was fascinated when we had the information coming up. We did some digging and all the history behind these things. I've had a great call last week about learning about the Mini 10K, and this week I get to learn about our Global Running Day. In 2009, it was actually called National Running Day, and in 2016, it expanded globally, encouraged participants to pledge and run and participate in their running activities. And more than anything else, it gives out it set out to get 1 million kids moving on Global Running Day. And what a better time right now after 2020 was so difficult. So many of us were inside our homes for so long to get outside and just run and pledge for 1 mile from wherever you are. In 2017, we had over 187 countries represented on Global Running Day. And actually, as of right now, as I speak, we have 119 right now for 2021. So we're coming up on that 187 number again. And in 2018, I remember this, I followed along on the different social channels of NYRR. We had the pop-up finish lines. We had over 60 of them throughout the five boroughs. I remember the one in Times Square. There was one on 6th Avenue. It was so great. People would be running, and the people from NYRR would show up with the finish line tape. You would bust through it, raise your arms. Who doesn't love to run through a finishing line tape? Roberto, what are some of the things that our runners can do on Global Running Day today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say number one, if you haven't already, you just visit the microsite, which is globalrunningday.org. And as Ben was talking, I have obviously multiple monitors. I was refreshing it. So just to give you a quick count, I just refreshed it. And when we were starting the show, I think we're just under 100. Now it's 126 countries and 4,782 people that are participating. So you could go on that site. Again, it's globalrunningday.org, and it's really cool because we're starting at the top of the show. By the end of the show, it'll be even higher by the end of the day. So continue to pledge your miles, log it in. But for all those of you out there who have already been on the site or maybe even haven't, you could do the Global Running Day Virtual 1 Mile and Rising NYR Active at Home virtual race. So as I mentioned before, I love doing virtual races. My wife is on an amazing running streak, I believe 70 or 80 days already. So I know at some point today she'll be going out for a run. I'll tag along, and that'll count for my Global Running Day Virtual 1 Mile. I could hear Ben laughing. I don't even see him, so I assume maybe he's doing the same thing with his wife. But we also have live Strider exercise classes. So Striders is our program for runners 50 and over. It's a great program that we have in person and obviously right now virtually as well. And then something that I'm obviously proud of and part of, we have our habitual routine, which is the NYR podcast, and episode 8 we cover Global Running Day, where on this awesome thematic episode we talk to runners and we hear stories from runners from all around the world, including, spoiler alert, space. That's right, out of space. So if you think I'm pulling your leg or yanking your chain or whatever the expression is, I would say check out the episode Habitual Routine, where you could download podcasts. Episode 8 is a Global Running Day one. So I want to know how Ben is celebrating his Global Running Day, but of course want to know how you're celebrating your Global Running Day. Continue to give us shout outs, let us know where you're watching from, if you've run it, if you're planning on running. And now that you know the website, let me refreshing it. We're 126 countries, 4,787 people. I'm not sure if it's budged, but continue to pledge. I know I'll be doing that later. Ben, what about you?
Absolutely, I'll be pledging later. I ran this morning, so I got to get myself in there. I haven't quite got on there and let the world know that I've done mine. I mean, obviously, I'm sure a lot of us in the United States have already run, but hey, if you're in a country out there, please let it go. I said in 2017, there were 187 countries represented. Right now, we're at 126, so we're inching closer and closer. We'll be refreshing, as they say, the tote board for all of us that watch telethons as a kid. So make sure you get out there. Represent, pledge. Love to see all the runners out there. I've already done my miles today. I'll get those up later this afternoon. But again, even if you have not run today, you can sign up for the virtual Global Running Day on the website. And any mile you run between June 1st, which was yesterday, and June 6th, with this coming Sunday, you can get in your 1 mile. So make sure you register and sign up at nyrr.org for the virtual Global Running Day 1 mile. And we got a couple more shout outs here. So we have Rosa calling in saying hi, and we have Melanie watching from the island of Manhattan. Hello, runners. Thank you so much. And it looks like we have a question here, Roberto, about from Melanie as well, talking about she has an issue with flat feet and has been running in motion control or stability shoes for years. Coming back for some setbacks, and the physical therapist that they work with suggested maybe a neutral shoe, forcing my feet to strengthen a bit more. Maybe some thoughts on that, Roberto, for Melanie?
Yeah, first of all, Melanie, thank you for tuning in and asking your question. So I'm rereading it. So you said you're a physical therapist, so that's obviously, a professional, and they see a lot of people. So I would say whatever you do, whether it's staying in a motion control shoe, which it tends to be a little bit of a bigger, heavier shoe with the medial posting a little bit more, a little bit stronger. That way it helps, control the motion. That's why it's motion control, pronating, supinating, etc. Or going to a neutral shoe, which a neutral shoe is going to be usually a little bit lighter, more cushion, and not as supportive. Is just make sure that you test it on nice, even terrain, and make sure that you run. I would say don't run as long while you're testing it out for the first few runs, first few days, and make sure that, again, you're maybe not going as hard, because the longer we run and the harder we run, chances are the more our mechanics break down because we get tired, we're out there longer. So I would say just gradually test it out, and then continue to give that feedback to your physical therapist, because they might make some adjustments. For example, this is just an example, you might be able to stay or remain in a neutral shoe, but you might need to get some orthotics, where those orthotics are going to provide a little bit extra support, but not as much support and motion control as a stability or motion control shoe would provide you. So, obviously right now you're tinkering. I'm not sure where in your training cycle you are, if you're getting ready for a race soon or a marathon later in the fall. But, if you are early days, it's a beautiful time to experiment, and hopefully, you will be able to get that support, because typically with flat feet, sometimes an orthotic will help with a neutral shoe, and that combination is enough. So I would say, try those sort of things, but continue to consult with your physical therapist, because it sounds like you're already on the right path.
Yeah, and that's great, and it leads very well into our final segment here of the show, talking about the running shoes and using different pairs. I know sometimes runners always ask us, should I have more than one pair of shoes? Should I have just one pair? Should they be the same pair? Should I have different pairs for different things? And there's all different ways to kind of look at that and approach that when you're in your training. Obviously, in the summer months, if you're training for marathons or different things, having separate pairs of shoes for different things is great, or having the same pair of shoes or a few of them to run as you give them time to dry out is always a good thing. Roberto, in your case, do you usually typically run in the same pair of shoes all the time, or do you like to rotate through a few pairs?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, obviously, the cost of shoes, for some people, it seems a little bit steeper than others. But, I would say running, relatively speaking, tends to be a inexpensive sport. And what I do is I invest in my shoes, because those are the shoes that's going to help me stay, injury free, ideally. So I'd rather, spend a little bit extra on good shoes that have been fitted for, at a specialty running store, then maybe skim on the price of shoes, and then later on, be injured because of that, and then have to visit, like as Melanie, the physical therapist, or doing rehab, or maybe worse, have to take some time off and miss valuable training or even the race. So for me, even back when I was running professionally to, today, where I'm not running nearly as many miles, I definitely always try to rotate between two shoes, and to keep them fresh, but also sometimes it really depends on the terrain, so if I'm going to be running most of my runs, as I was last week in Central Park, where, I was running the outer loop a lot, I'm going to maybe use a cushion shoe, a shoe that's going to have more cushion to absorb the pounding of the pavement. But then, maybe when I'm able to run more in the trails, I'm going to have maybe more of a trail shoe that is better suited for running on the trails, protects my ankles a little bit, has a little, more traction. It might not have as much cushion, but that's also not necessary because again, I'm in the trail. So, I would say alternating between two shoes is great, but don't just get two shoes for the sake of getting them. Make sure that the shoes make sense with the sort of training that you're doing and also the time of year that you're running. What about you, Coach Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's spot on. I mean, I know I rotate shoe throughs, when I'm doing my marathon training because I do sweat a lot. So to giving my shoes time to rebound and recover, just like I have to, is always good because if you keep using the same pair of shoes over and over again, it just presses down all the cushioning and it loses all that nice spring back. And also the support around the shoe will break down on the tops and the ankles. It just kind of begins to deteriorate over time. That's just natural. So you want to make sure if you do and you can do it, it's always good to have a pair or two. They could be the same pair. Again, if you're just training for the marathon and you typically run on the same terrain all the time, then just have a shoe that works well on the terrain that you're running that properly supports you. That way you can give those shoes as long a life as possible. If you are someone who maybe does work on track, maybe have a lighter pair for your speed work. But again, it's nothing is right or wrong. It's really what you need to. I have trained for an entire marathon in the same pair of shoes. I just know they're going to break down a bit faster. Just be prepared for that, and you'll kind of know when they break down. You'll feel this won't have that spring back. That it won't push your foot back up when you run. It's kind of you flat, and it feels like it's dead. It's falling apart a little bit because shoes are not meant to last forever. You're probably going to get somewhere maybe in the low end 200, maybe in the upper end 400 or 500 miles before those shoes need to be replaced. If you use Strava or any other app to track your running, it's a great way to also track how many miles you have on your shoes. Because again, you want to get to, be as healthy as you can and get to the start line with your shoes in a good state, not too far down their lifeline as you get going. But yeah, always look into it. What I also like to do is if you do like a pair of shoes that you're running, check out online. There are a lot of online retailers out there that carry either the current brand or the previous model, maybe a little bit on sale, a little bit less expensive. So if you can jump on those sales, you can get shoes for upwards of 40 to 50% off. So it's always good to check out those websites for cheaper shoes because heck, we're runners. It seems like a cheap sport, but as we know, it can get kind of expensive after a while.
Yeah, and as Ben was talking, I was also thinking of some other pro tips. He obviously mentioned if you're on, a site like Strava, you could put your shoe in, and it does do a great job of tracking. But call me old school, Mr. Old School here. One thing I like to do is, I'll buy when I have a pair of shoes. I love taking out my Sharpie and I'll put down the date. Like today is June 2nd, so pretty easy. I'll put down the date, and that way it's almost like a visual reminder of like, okay, I've been wearing these shoes for 3 months. Maybe it's time that I switch, and again, that's something like a pro tip that you don't have to rely on technology. You just write on the side of your shoe. And then the other thing I was going to say is as you're training, this summer, and Coach Ben said, if you like a shoe, buy it several times. At some point, pick a shoe that you are going to use for race day, even if it's the exact same model that you've been training with, and make sure that don't just leave it like brand new and take it out of the box on that race morning or the night before to try it on, because even though it's the exact same shoe, the exact same size, for whatever reason, sometimes the cut's a little bit different, etc. So it's good to know which shoes you work for you on your long run, test it out, and then know that you're going to buy another version of that just so you have it for race day. It's a little bit fresher. But I would say, in the last 2 weeks of your taper, which we're still very far away from, I understand, maybe try those shoes that you are going to use on race day. Try them out a couple of runs just to like, okay, they do feel good. They're spot on, all good to go. Or they kind of rub a little bit here and there, because if you wait till race day, which is an honest mistake that many of us have done in the past, because it's the exact same shoes I've been training with, just a new version, you could run into that sort of issue on the race course, and that's not going to be, beneficial to anybody. So that's kind of my pro tip. Buy the same shoes if it works for you, test them out before your race day, and then as far as tracking the miles, definitely write down, when you got them, and that way it's easier visually about when you should be switching your shoes. So I think before we wrap up, we have at least one other question. So I'll ask it and I'll answer it as well. But first up, you'll answer, Ben. So Jerome, famous athlete that you would train if you had to choose one.
That I would train, or that I would train with. I mean, that's an interesting famous athlete that you would train if you had to choose. I mean, is it train with or train them to prepare for a race?
I'm gonna go since we're coaches. Famous athlete that you would train. So train with, you could answer that as well, but I'm taking it as like you would train. Like if you could pick an athlete from, I assume, any sport.
You know what? I'm going to go with this one because I mean, I would have to go. Yeah, I'm going to go this direction because I've been watching the French Open. Anybody who's out there who's a tennis fan, the French Open is going on right now. I'm a huge Roger Federer fan. The man is incredible. I think he played yesterday, the day before he won. He's got two knee operations in 2020 and 2021. He came back. He's winning again. The guy is as fit. He's an incredible athlete, an incredible sportsman. I think if I had the chance that he wanted to do it, I think it would be an honor to be able to train him because he's just such a quality guy. I mean, he's got two sets of twins. He just everything right. I think he'd be someone just to be fun to train with. But right now that would be that first one that came to my mind. Roberto, what are you thinking?
I mean, that's a great choice, but did you say Roger Federer has two sets of twins, so 4 kids? Wow.
Yeah,
that's
he has twin girls and he has twin boys. It's incredible. It's like, well, how does most people can't even do that once. He's got twin girls and twin boys. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to Google it just to see. Like, that's even more impressive for his playing because like I don't know how he does sleep, but so yeah, great choice. I will have to Google that. I don't think I knew that about Roger, but great choice. For me, being an FC Barcelona fan through and through, which I think everybody on earth knows, certainly Ben, I would love to train Lionel Messi. He's legendary, the best football player the planet or the galaxy has ever seen. He runs a lot during the game, so I would love to train for whatever distance he wants, from 5K to marathon. Just an honor to train a legend like that in a sport that it's within his wheelhouse because obviously he runs for training, but would be relatively speaking outside of his comfort zone. And then I would let him train me a little bit for football as well. So that's my choice.
I'm not shocked by that choice at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's many years back, I probably would have said Michael Jordan because growing up it was Michael Jordan, but he's since retired and Messi is just now king of sports. So, but anyway, it's Global Running Day. Thank you to everybody watching, including our last shout out from Prague. We have Skipper, so hi Skipper from Prague. We really appreciate the questions, the engagement. We'll be back every other week now. For those of you who have been used to watching the coaches show on Facebook Live, we were every Wednesday prior to the pandemic. We're just starting to relaunch it, so we're looking forward to having more engagements with our runners every other week. You'll see myself, Coach Ben, Coach Anik, Coach Steve, and maybe a special guest here and there. But again, congratulations to everybody for your Global Running Day miles that you've done or you're going to do in my case, or as in Ben's case, he'll probably go out again. And thank you for watching so much. Thank you, thank you, Ben. Thank you as well for kicking off today's show and Global Running Day with me.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here. I just refreshed the site. I can't believe we're 126 countries, 4,818 runners out there doing their pledge for the Global Running Day. Runners, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Roberto, always fun to be on the show. I'll make sure I get online on Messi's Twitter this afternoon. Let him know that you're interested in doing the training with him. So.
Yeah, Messi, if you're watching, feel free to celebrate Global Running Day with us. And of course, I'll happy to train you for the 50th running of the TCS New York City Marathon, just exclusive right here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. All right. Take care.
Bye, runners.